to dedicate this episode to the pipeline of prosperity because this episode is all about positivity and my favorite subject of all time, personal development.
Hell yeah.
So Cory knows a little bit about personal development, and he started a trend 10 or 12 years ago
Yeah.
about utilizing personal development while doing after workout cardio, steady state of some sort, walking on a treadmill, doing incline, lunging, which is the mecca of all of
Yeah.
it. So, Lunge and Learn program. Give a brief little description about the Lunge and Learn and what it's done for you.
Well, I'll start with saying that I used to actually say this out loud, and you're going to laugh that I thought reading was a waste of my time and stupid.
Same.
Like when I say
I
that,
know, dude.
that
It's
shit
so
makes
funny.
me sound like a fucking idiot. And so I want to start off by saying that because I was around a bunch of people that never did it. And there's no resource. Late 90s, there's no YouTube. You know what I mean? So it's not like I could even hear like a motivational speech or whatever. So it's real like basic. Like here's a book. You have to read it. Everything I was forced to read in school I disliked, except for muscle magazines outside of school.
Right.
So I had a negative connotation towards education and reading. And it's because I wasn't reading things I actually wanted to learn. So I want to say it by that.
Because they weren't impactful whatsoever.
At all.
Right.
Until I read my first business book and a couple other things because I started to really execute things I needed to get better at. So it wasn't just generally learning. I didn't understand the difference between like any type of wealth idea. I didn't understand true like regular business. Like I didn't understand any of it.
No awareness.
No awareness.
Right.
So very basic mindset stuff, liabilities, assets, things like that. Because I had zero financial IQ. My mom didn't. My dad, they had financial problems. Like no one was talking about stock or investing or entrepreneur. Like none. I heard money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
Which is the craziest. Like So at the end of the day, like I had my baseline was negative zero, and so I want to say by that number one. Number two, I was trying to find a way to do two birds, one stone, right? Because I'm already spending all this time, whether it's on the treadmill, getting ready for bodybuilding shows, or it turned into lunging, which then helped me do bodybuilding and powerlifting both. And I was like, I noticed something when I was done. You call it the runner's high, you call it whatever, but my brain could receive more material at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea was like, well, what about during? And so what happened was after I lifted, we would have that endomorphic, we would feel good or whatever. And I would go to do conditioning, which I hated, by the way. I don't like running. I don't like doing any of that shit.
Yeah, no cardio.
No
queens around
cardio.
here.
Yeah, right. I want to lift weights. I'm a
Right.
fucking meathead. But what I started to get addicted to was the learning part, which then got me excited about going to the track to lunge or to walk or whatever it was. So I just literally said, okay, what audiobook would actually enhance my business as a personal trainer? What audiobook would make me understand how I can try to put some money together to build a family of wealth for myself? And I literally just started chipping away book by book, lunge by lunge, walk by walk. And then on top of it, I'm a marketing guy, so I'm like, all right, what can I call this? Lunge University, Lunge and Learn. And I just, through consistency, 10, 12 years of this, I don't think it's quite 1,000 books, but it's probably close. It's hundreds for sure, and the ones that were the most impactful for me multiple times. And on top of it, when I was done, that's when I would have the most clarity. I also had problems reading. Like if you guys ever would get an email from me, you would understand like I am not the smartest dude. That's a fact. I have problems writing. I have problems with attention. I have problems reading. But I started to understand that almost if my body was confused by the lunges, I would receive the material. Or if I'm listening to music and I'm actually reading, I could retain it. Part of the reason why I didn't like reading is probably I have some type of disability that I just was unchecked or undiagnosed. So like I had some challenges, and I think a lot of people do, which is also why I write books that are 100 pages.
Right.
So anyway, that's like a long-winded answer, but that's really, I want to set the tone that I'm not an academic. I was actually thought it was a waste of time, but it's actually flipped and basically like really enhanced my life a ton.
Completely changed my life too. So I talk about my two biggest fears: having my shirt off as a young kid,
Yep.
all the way through becoming a teenager, And then I also talk about public speaking, being in front of the camera. That started because I couldn't read as a kid. So I don't think I've ever talked about this to anybody, honestly, but probably third grade is maybe when it stopped. I used to have to go to reading lessons after school.
Yep.
Like during class or whatever, I would be set aside. Like I was not able to read very good. So I'd have to get private lessons. I had to go through all this like hardship of not being able to do a basic function of life.
Yeah, it is a
And
basic
so it was a
function,
setback
too.
from a very young age, and I was never applied at it because I didn't care to read. Even now, I still struggle to find enough peace and like quiet for me to sit down and read a book. If I can read a book, I will not stop. I'll read the whole thing. I'll have to be like taken out of my space, you know, after hours of being dedicated to that reading because I'm so into it.
Sure.
But audio for me is absolutely the go-to. So I couldn't read. I was a C student at best. I was an entrepreneur at a young age because I was wild. I did not fit in any type of box. So I was not going to conform to what a bureaucratic society
For
would
sure.
say, right? So reading was a pain point for me. I didn't think there was any value in it either.
I used to literally say it was a waste of my time.
I don't want to know about English literature,
No.
obviously, because if you see an email from me, quite like you, it's not very good.
No,
right?
and it's quick to the point, and I'm just getting across, and half the time the grammar's all fucked up, and it just, there's slang in it. It's a fucking train wreck.
But it's you.
But it's real.
And it's authentic, right?
Yeah.
And that's the powerful thing about, you know, third grade, I can't read. Authenticity. You, same thing. You struggled with this for
My
whatever
whole
reason.
life.
And so when I discovered personal development and not only acknowledging it, but embracing it, it completely transformed everything that I did.
Same.
So probably early 20s when I really started dedicating myself to it. And I could think of a few staple books that just completely shattered any paradigm I had ever known. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The
Yeah,
Compound
that's-
Effect, and Think and Grow Rich.
All three of those
The
are
three
gangster
are-
boy.
They're my top 3 all-time books, and I probably go back and read or listen to each one once a year, once every other year
Same.
now. Because
You could legitimately never read another book out of those 3, and it would be life-changing,
Think and Grow
honestly.
Rich, every time I go through it, it's like, oh shit, that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because I'm a different person today than I was a year ago, so my brain is different now than
You'll
it was
find new things.
every time.
Yeah.
So Think and Grow Rich just completely allows you to think about the world from a whole perspective and not the box that you're in currently.
Facts.
Changes everything. For me, it just completely changed everything. Rich Dad, Poor Dad lets you know that putting your money under the mattress isn't very smart, right? There is not really that safety or security in a bureaucratic system.
That one really changed for me because I'm telling you, I had no understanding. Like, it's wild to think about how much I learned since I started reading and investing and making mistakes and figuring stuff out. But the reality is, I remember reading that and being blown away. And also, I wouldn't say it was the same setup, but my buddy's dad was an entrepreneur that owned a small grocery store. But he used to be a coal miner, like my dad. And so I remember thinking, wait, I kind of had this going on. Not as, it wasn't like that because he didn't really go, but I was witnessing it to some degree. And so there was an impact of somebody that operated differently, and I wasn't super close with them, but I was around enough.
Right.
And so I think I could identify like with that. And then reading, like, honestly, just understanding the difference between a liability and asset.
Huge.
It's massive,
Huge.
Jake.
It
Because then
is.
you have to. So here's the thing. My parents had financial struggle and made a lot of bad decisions. But I think, because I remember being a kid, like getting stuff repoed, and, you know, they went through a bankruptcy, I'm pretty sure, and they had like a lot of problems, man. And so, one, I didn't know my dad had a gambling problem, which definitely didn't help the process.
Right.
My mom never ran any of the money, so she didn't know what was going on. So there was always those type of issues too. But the reality is, once you have even the basic understanding of liability or asset, something puts money in your pocket and can go up in value, something takes money out of your pocket and can go down in value. That's it. You then are making the decision. So if I am buying a liability, I am saying Cory is going to spend this money knowing he's not making money for it
It's
and
appreciate
knowing
year
it's going to
over
go
year.
down.
Yep.
And if I'm making that decision because the want is that, then I'm not blindly making that and then putting myself. So I think that a lot of decisions were made because it was uneducated at the time, and then they didn't really know how to get themselves out of it. And so I think once I had just that really basic understanding, I was like, I can just do things differently. And that happened from I read a book called Conversations with Millionaires that had one chapter was Robert Kiyosaki, which talked about
Yep.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yep.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad second, and then really I've been off to the races
I
since
think
then.
you probably recommended them 3 books to me. I would
Yep.
say I know the Think and Grow Rich. You sent me the Legacy movie.
Yep.
And I was
Compound
probably-
Effect, I definitely probably
yeah,
did
the
too.
Compound
Yep.
Effect for sure.
Which also is a thin book.
and it's
so you go
powerful.
You go, and it has a lifting thing right in the beginning. So you go, wait, I can read this book today. That's why I continue. Well, partly because I'm not very good at writing, but partly is like my books, like my high school kids, I see how they react to it because they don't read. They're forced to read in school, but I give them that book. And my one kid that signed to play at Ohio State, he goes, hey, I'm already on page 60. I'm like, see, bro, like it isn't that intimidating. He's like, yeah. And it's like, he was like, I'm really learning some stuff. I'm like, because at the end of the day, like I can tell people what I want and they can see a video. But when they actually sit down and read something that you took a year to do or however long it was, it hits different, man.
It does. And when you apply what you practice what you preach. So the compound effect. If you're, last year probably this time, you were 210 pounds roughly. And then brick by brick, day by day, you just stuck to the plan, right?
Just
3
whittle it
months
down.
later, 4 months later, you drop 20, you're shredded.
Yeah. Just
Me,
whittle
same
it
thing.
down.
So a few months ago, I start the busy diet. I go down 15 pounds, and just keep chipping away at it.
You look completely different. Dude.
I'm changed. I'm a completely different person, but it's not overnight.
Mm-mm.
The win
Don't
is
expect
not-
it to be overnight.
No. And if you try to do it overnight, you're going to fail more than likely.
I think understanding that the expectation is there's a process to everything, right? Whether it's business, whether it's changing your body, whether it's feeling good, whatever it is. And you'll hear people say, fall in love with the process, fall in love with the process. But if you can find a few things that you like about the process, like I don't like the conditioning, but I like the personal development.
Mm-hmm.
So I fell in love with that part. I didn't necessarily like the early alarm clock, but I love lifting weights. You know what I mean? And I also like lifting weights not by myself. So it's like, you know what I mean? There's things that are awesome and that are wound in with things that are maybe not so awesome, but together it kind of like drives you. So I think like you got to play the games with yourself a little bit too.
Whenever you commit to one small step, man, it is so powerful. And I talk about it frequently, but you commit, you get some courage, then you're capable, and then you get confidence, right?
Yep.
And then as you commit to read one page of a book a day.
Yeah, that's a huge
I
one.
actually just challenged someone that needs to start working out bad to do 1 push-up and 1 squat for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
28 days, that's it. That's all you got to commit to. Because I know just committing and checking that box every day will change that person's life.
Well, yeah, because you'll get to 11:30 at night on a Saturday, and you're like,
It's
shit,
rough, yeah.
I didn't do it yet.
Mhm.
But you do it, and then you're like, next day.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those days that end up kind of like really building confidence for a person.
And I always recommend, something like that, a squat and a push-up you can do in 3 seconds,
Yep.
right?
Literally.
Do it first thing in the morning when you
Just
get out of
knock it
bed.
out.
You have an alarm to get your ass out of bed, and you have an alarm to do that every day, and that builds that habit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's small, but then a couple push-ups.
It's
And
huge.
after a year, you're doing 100 push-ups.
Just
100
helps
squats.
create momentum in your life. I think that just a minor structure like that. Like I like the 1 page a day read because your time involved is super small. You're going to learn something, and you're going to feel like that you accomplished something too, which will help
100%.
contribute to the momentum of just everyday life.
We all have habits every day
Yeah.
that we do. We wake up, we brush our teeth. We have a few things that we do every day. Why can't you read 1 page out of a book?
Yeah.
If it's going to compound your evolution and change your life, which it will
Mm.
over time, why would you not just read 1 page? Right?
Yep.
It's a very, very small commitment. It doesn't take but a couple minutes. And what it does, it just starts this habit of completely changing the way you view the world, the way you operate in the world, your confidence. It changes everything.
Well, I think that also it's a little bit weird to do, but I would recommend it, is really write down your habits that contribute to you probably feeling good or getting better,
100%.
and write down your habits that are, clearly are not contributing to that.
So-
It's easy for people, like, you just go through life and you sometimes don't realize things, right? But then, like, even like things you're maybe eating at night, or if you're drinking more days than you should, or you're not drinking enough water, like, you can do a do's and don'ts like real quick and go, ooh. And then if you just see like, why am I replicating this? It's not going to change overnight, but you could say, look, I'm normally drinking 6 Bud Lights. Maybe I should drink 3.
Drink 3 and then
drink 3 waters.
Drink a water in between, right?
Yeah.
Like let's
not saying just quit, because
right.
that's never going to work for anybody. I literally my stepmom, who's passed away now, she legit drank 8 Mountain Dews a day. I couldn't even and smoked 2 packs of Marlboro Reds. I couldn't make this up if I tried. But I think a lot of people can identify with it, so I'm going to bring it up, right?
Well, she probably didn't see it. Probably was not an unhealthy thing when she started doing that.
Dude, she did it forever.
There wasn't science behind of it 30 or 40 years ago.
She worked at a truck stop, and she just that's just what she did. And she tried to go, dude, I don't even know how many grams of sugar that is, but it's an astronomical amount. Like 2,000, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. So she went one day to all water. She was like, I'll drink all Dasanis. Dude, her body was so confused. She was like passing out. She was all fucked up. Yeah. So my dad was like, okay, I don't think we can do that. Let's go 6 Mountain Dews, 3 water.
Out a week.
Yeah, literally. And that's what she did over a period of time. And she brought down the smoke. She incrementally, and she still smoked and still drank Mountain Dew. That's my point. But she did it at a smaller percentage, and she got healthier because of it. Yeah, it was crazy. Wild. When I was like talking to her about it, I was like, holy shit, it's unbelievable.
And so that is all what the Iron Infrastructure podcast is about, because this is not an uncommon thing in construction.
No, I know it is. That's why I brought it up.
There's a lot of guys that, like, we have a handful of guys at work that go out coon hunting at night. Mm-hmm. So they run their dogs, they go through the woods, so they're up late. They all drink Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
like to stay awake. And it's, first of all, teach their own, but to drink all that and then crash for a few hours, then come back. Think about your insulin levels in the morning after 3 to 4 hours of sleep.
Well, and the inflammation of all the sugar is just real bad. I mean, look, I always like to bring up that I was also the guy like my stepdad who got me the job in the coal mine, he didn't drink or smoke or anything. But I was not that way. So I would be out with my homies.
Same.
And I would be up late, and I would come in and I'm drinking the coffee that looks like motor oil. Mm-hmm. I used to bum non-filtered Pall Malls off this old dude who's obviously not alive anymore because he smoked those. Yeah. That was running the mine. And then fucking chewing Red Man all day and like eating shitty and I felt shitty. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like it's easy to be in that cycle, but just understand if you just back off a little bit and just try it and something you can easily commit to, that over time you start to feel just incrementally better, and you go, okay, what happens if I do just drink water like these fucking 2 muscleheads say? Like, am I going to feel better? Because you're getting short-term energy. And long-term energy is within when your insulin stays stable. So what you're doing is you're spiking it and getting a little bit of energy, and then it's crashing.
Same as a cigarette, right?
It's the same thing.
You're really getting that fix.
It's like a caffeine bump and then gone. And so once you can get the baseline where you just feel good, then it's like you start to like knowingly stay away from that stuff, because you're like, wait, this is impacting not only how my body feels, but how my mind feels.
So you don't feel great or bad,
you just feel good.
Yeah. Like flatline, right?
You just feel flatline good, which is a good thing.
Right. And so many people don't understand how good that really is.
Yeah.
Because they're always chasing that. I need 6 shots of espresso. I need this. I need that to go up or go down, just like a cigarette. I think it's every 16 or 20 minutes a cigarette. You're supposed to want your next cigarette after you smoke one.
Yeah.
That's why there's 20 in a pack. There's something behind the science. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember the same thing. I never thought I would smoke. I actually remember probably promising my mom I would never smoke when I was in high school. When I went in the pipeline, I went right into my environment, and I adapted to the environment. I did not go against the grain at all for probably 2 years.
I didn't either.
So I became just another guy on the crew. And I realized, like, man, this is just not like me.
Mm-hmm.
I know another way. I've been working out for years. I wasn't really dedicating myself to the workout at that point because I am going to that happy hour. So that's when my personal development journey really kind of started. What the hell are you doing with your life? Question from you. And then after that, it's like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I going to this happy hour? I don't like none of these knuckleheads anyway. They're not going anywhere in their life. Why am I associating myself with them? So I stepped back and I just said, you know what? I need to create my own environment. So I stayed home or in the hotel. Instead of going across the street to Applebee's, I would go down on the treadmill.
Applebee's happy hour with 22 ounces, though, boy.
Dude, I'm telling you what, that and some wings.
Yes, pretty good.
Athens, Ohio. Holiday
Shout
Inn
out,
and Applebee's.
yeah.
Yeah, shout out to that. But I just wouldn't go, over there. I would just kind of
Yeah.
do my own thing. But the real separation was not me staying away from the happy hour as much as it was what I was putting in my head at that
Yeah.
point. So that's when the personal development started, and then I became obsessed because I started to think about a bigger picture. I started to think about, I want to buy this company. If I want to overcome this obstacle in this job, how do I do it? I can either study training modules that we have for the scope of work specifically, or I can grab a book, grab a magazine, whatever it is. There's content that is going to allow me to get past this hurdle.
Yep.
And once I had fully dedicated myself to that, it became an obsession, and most of the people in the crew were sick of me talking about it. But what I did was made an environment. So I was pretty much suffocating the environment of comfort, non-productivity time. Like I kind of
Sure.
went away from that because everyone was forced to listen to what I was listening to in the truck.
Yeah, that's funny.
Because I was the crew leader, right?
Yeah.
So if they want to be in the truck, they're going to listen to what I want to listen to. Or
You're
they could
listening
drive
to
there.
fucking Tony Robbins on the way to the job
Right.
site. I can see it now.
Right. So
That's
it also
good.
did create a little bit of like unity with the crew
That's
because
cool.
they wouldn't sleep because I wouldn't let them most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd let them, but
Oh,
they
like
get a
in the
little-
truck.
oh,
yeah.
yeah, because I would always drive being the foreman, so there would be some brake checks every once in a while that
That's
kind of wake
hilarious.
everybody up. But then getting closer to the job site, I would lay out a plan. I would kind of communicate the plan before we even hit the ground. Everyone would know what was going on that day, that week.
That's cool.
The next 3 or 4 things that need to happen after this phase of the job's done.
They probably started to like it.
So they started to evolve themselves. And I didn't even realize it until more recently. It was kind of a natural thing for me. I have to find my replacement. I'm constantly trying to build someone up to take my spot because I'm going to the next spot.
Yep.
Even now, there's always a next destination. So if I can develop myself to the point that I can be replaced, that gives me the flexibility and the freedom to go do what I need to do next.
Yeah, facts.
And so personal development was the start to that. But from a basic level, everyone has success criteria in their life. But it doesn't mean they have to do what we do.
Oh.
Very, very few people in the world are going to want to wake up at 3 o'clock, are going to go to the 4 a.m. crew, are going to own multiple businesses and do everything that they do. We are different in general. The group of guys around here, it's different. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard,
very
right?
hard.
Success isn't hard, though. First, you have to identify it.
Well, yeah, the definition is everybody's is different, too.
Right. It is not a one-size-fits-all.
Mm-mm.
You will not find two people's idea of success be the same because
No.
they have different backgrounds, different family, whatever. So if you want to be a school bus driver and you want to be the best school bus driver ever, if you want to be a volunteer, impact community, if you want to help out at your church, whatever it is,
But it
success
has
is
to be your
individual,
definition, though.
right? But how many people in the coal mine did you know that had no idea what their success looked like? They never even thought about
I
it.
just don't even think we really ever talked about it. Well, I remember one guy I worked with that was really unfortunate. He was a great, really good dude, strong, older, been in the mine like 40 years. And then he got out and he died 2 years later. And he was just starting to enjoy what that probably was. And it was really unfortunate because he looked super healthy all the way to that point. And then something, some health issue hit him. And I don't even think he lived that hard. Actually, I think he was one of the dudes that lifted weights and stayed relatively in
Right.
shape. But it was just like one of those things where it kind of hit me because I was so young. I was like 19. And I'm like, it just reconfirmed even more. I'm not gonna let that happen because, I mean, it's one of those things where you just never really know. So, taking care of yourself and giving yourself a chance, even if it's a side project that you're really into, like, just really go out there and try to develop yourself and try to pick off the things you can get better at because it might lead to something completely different, which is what's kind of happening with you too, right? So I always just looked at my life and said, okay, we are like 0 in the financial category. So I got to bring that up to at least like some type of base level of knowledge. Like I cannot just run into this wall and keep running into this wall. And I was super obsessed about exercise, obviously, so I would spend a bazillion hours in that. But Arnold would talk about like applying that to business, the shit we learn in the gym, applying it to business. So it started to make some sense to me. But even like now, if I'm struggling in a relationship or struggling in leadership or struggling in creativity, I go after material like the Creative Act from Rick Rubin, who's a legendary producer that worked with Slayer and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then Jay-Z, everybody, right? Adele, he's a beast. Like, I read his book, and I think that's what sparked, honestly, my latest book.
Right.
And also, he had said multiple times about going through this process until someone basically says no, and that's kind of the approach I took with the new real estate project. And so I just think that I can really look at certain parts of my life, and I can draw an arrow right over to what I was reading or consuming during that time. It's pretty evident, honestly.
It is, and what you consume is not for today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's for 6, 12, 18 months down the road. Most of the time we're consuming something that we don't even know is going to impact us.
No.
A year ago, if you would have said that we'd be sitting here on my podcast,
yeah,
I would have said you're a damn liar.
In
like,
the fucking
no
in the
way.
cigar room that you helped build.
So, oh yeah. By the way, shout out to the cigar room. I mean, this is pretty.
We got to
epic,
find
right?
a cool name. We ain't got one yet, but it's this is a super secret, a
executive
gangster
suite.
location.
Yeah, yeah. Cannot get the coordinates to this.
It's so good.
So, success, individual. Awareness is what I'm here for. I want to create awareness. I want to create opportunity for people just to see their life from a different lens. So identifying your success.
Mm-hmm.
How? How do we identify success? You just explained it perfectly. I have this dire pain point that I know I have to overcome. It started, your environment is not in your control. So you think about the environment.
Correct.
From a young age.
Not when you're little, it's not.
No. Well, our environment is not something that we have a foundation. We don't have a choice in the foundation of it. 3 to 4 years old, when our brains are mature enough to retain information, our environment is created for us. What we do with that environment determines our life, joy, happiness, success, whatever you want to say. So you had adversity at a young age, financial pain, right? So you wanted to learn and overcome that. A lot of people don't. A lot of people just stay in that same groove.
It's
right?
easy. It's easier too.
It is
honestly
easier.
It's just easier too.
People don't understand.
I thought about that before back in the day.
So think about this. It's easier to stay in the same failure lane and not try and fail.
Well, it's because
right?
it's easier just to say, well, this is the hand that I'm dealt. Mm-hmm. But you don't realize you can not traditionally. See, that's the thing is I never went to college. I went to community college one year. I didn't think that traditional education was going to get me out of it. I just didn't think that was going to be my way. So it's like once I understood that self-education on clearly the things that I was deficient in could help get me out of it, that I was in charge of educating myself, that no one was going to come and save Cory G. No one gave two fucks.
No one's
honestly.
coming to save you.
No one's coming to save you. You got to save your fucking self. So a lot of things that happened to me, they were just me. Like no one was telling me. The pain points of, parents not being together, all the financial hardship, just seeing that pain. I just think, and then no one liking their job. And I was just thinking like, I don't know, man. Like this just doesn't seem
There's
that.
more to life than that.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem that fucking fun.
There's more to life. You're looking at.
I was just like, this sucks.
Well, you're looking at a magazine with Venice Beach and Arnold Flex.
Thinking that looks way more fun.
And knowing that that's in the same United States of America that you live in, you can hop in a car in 25 hours and be there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's on the other side of the U.S., but it's still
here, buddy.
It's still here.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I've been doing this for so long, and I think because of all the content we create, and I just think that the pain was so constant, and that was the norm. That it was like so struggle filled.
It was your environment.
It was the environment, and I was just so fed up with the environment that I knew that I'm honestly very thankful that resources changed when they did. Mm-hmm. If I'm 10 years older or 10 years newer or 10 years younger, like I don't know that I have the same. I don't know. Like the time I was born in was the time I was supposed to be born in. Honestly, I have the interesting mix of pre-internet, not very many resources, to being able to utilize those resources as an adult and a business person that I adapted to. Right. So I'm an interesting mix, I think.
So I'm 10 years behind you, but still similar in that path. I had a phone at 16, but it was a flip phone.
Yeah,
it wasn't color, like an old Nextel, right?
Yep.
you could throw that thing you could shoot out of a
I remember
cannon,
those
dude.
walkie-talkie things.
Yeah, it wouldn't work right. You throw it down a flight of stairs or two, and it would work fine after that. But the pipeline of prosperity, so the newsletter and the book that I'm writing and the other programs that are going to come out of that, the pipeline of prosperity. So prosperity is successful or thriving, right? Especially financial. That's what the definition is. Pipeline. What are you putting in your individual pipeline to become successful? You can't identify that until you know what your pain points are and what you have to overcome. Personal development, the journey itself starts with overcoming adversity in your life.
For sure.
For everybody. So if you're third generation coal miner, fourth generation coal miner, financial pain, like Cory Gregory, you have to figure out how to get out of that.
Yeah.
And so you took that on yourself to change generations of Gregory's to come. And you've done it. But you will never lose that environment feeling because it's still your environment to your core.
Yeah.
Now you've created a different life for your kids. Their environment is different.
Yeah, they
but
can never
you
know.
will
They
never
can never
change,
know mine.
right?
Chris Rock said it best. He said, he
Identifies poor.
Yeah, he's rich, but he identifies as poor, and he's like his kids identify as rich because that's all they know. And so I think that to some degree I feel that same way because, I never wanted to go back that way. So that's what continues to fuel. I do think that there's, one of those things now where it's like even with the investing part of it, right? I'm not by no means some unbelievable financial guy, but I enjoy just even getting people to understand the basics because I know how life, even my parents, my kids, the guys in the office, we talk about it a lot, because some of these guys are from the same areas or areas like where I grew up. And I just get excitement over that conversation and talk towards thinking that way. Because honestly, all these dudes are so much younger than me. They're going to probably have more money than me because they started earlier.
Right.
And so it's like one of those things where I know that is I just tweeted today, like I'm obsessed with dividend investing because I never had a salary. I've always been creating my own like money and jobs. And so like stability, like to me that, I don't know, like I never thought that way anyway, but the fact that I can take my money, whether it's $1 or $100, and invest in something that then is creating money on my money that's quote unquote, more stable, which that was a weird word, but it's fucking life changing to me. It's hilarious. It's like backwards.
Right. But you just mentioned
but for me, it's not.
Rich dad, poor dad. So what society tells us is to be the poor dad.
Yes. 100%.
The rich dad is 1,000% an outlier. But why did the rich dad discover how to be rich? Personal development.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. Because you're not taught this in any type of like schooling. Even if you go to like economics in college or anything in that are specific to that, finance or accounting in high school, college, you're not learning about that.
Honestly, Jake, even just understanding like the difference of passive income, because the categories in Rich Dad Poor Dad, it shows you clearly how an employee's money flows, how a self-employed person, how an owner and investor. And the easiest way is you can buy a stock for $30 that pays you $2 a year. Now, you're not going to get rich on that, but you just see that hit your account one day and you go, wait, I didn't do anything for that except for buy that stock.
Right.
Then it's just multiplication. And so I think that when people can understand what that is, it changes some things.
So something as basic as there's taxable income. So after all the taxes and everything come out of your paycheck, the money you have left over is your taxable income, right? It's already taxed.
Yep.
And then you're going to go to the store and you're going to get taxed again for whatever you buy, sales tax, tax on your fuel. Everything that you put money into is taxed. Then there's tax deferred and HSA, 401k, whatever it may be. And then there's tax free. Roth IRAs, overfunded life insurance policies. There's different things that are tax free. Just understanding them three basics are massive. So,
by the way, you can Google search any of this shit and figure it out yourself in
so
5 minutes. Yeah.
It's so basic too. So just understanding that, hey, if I go pay for this medication and I don't have an HSA account set up that pays, I don't have to pay for it. You can literally do it for free.
Yeah.
You can get signed up for free. Put money into it, use a card out of it, it lowers your tax liability.
Yep.
Something that basic, I cannot even fathom the amount of money that could be saved in the blue collar industry, because when a 401k representative shows up, it's a sale to everyone. Everyone sees it like, yeah, they're just coming here to sell me to take my money. That's what the narrative normally is. Maybe out of, say, 90 of our guys, there's 10 or 15 that come up, ask questions after, and are fully bought in and understand it. But most of them don't understand, and they don't want to acknowledge that they don't understand, or they don't want to reach out.
Yeah.
So they
Because
don't.
it seems weak if you don't know.
It's just awareness, though.
And
It's really what it is. It's not
and education.
It is, and it's not ignorance.
No.
It's just not knowing. You're
no
not
one
even
taught you
aware.
yet.
Yes.
No one
You're
taught
not
you
even
yet.
aware.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of power in the personal development for every aspect of your life.
Yeah, I would agree.
There is not anything that is going to go on in your life that you cannot read a book and figure out a solution.
By the way, if you don't know, you can spend 10 minutes a day to know. You know what I mean? Literally from Google, YouTube, and then when the next time you sit in that meeting, you know exactly what that guy's talking about. I've sat in a
100%.
bunch of meetings like that where dudes are either trying, this is the insecurity part. You're like, this dude's trying to fucking big time me and act smart, and he's probably got all this money. I've thought all that shit too until I understood it, and then I was like, nah, he's just doing his job. I just don't fucking understand it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And and that insecurity creeps in of like, oh, well, I'm just some dumb dude, whatever. I've had all these thoughts until you're not the dumb dude and you're the one making the real financial, like, smart decisions, and then you're in a different situation.
Right.
But there's an education component to that, by the way, I didn't have access to when I was a kid, but everyone has an access to now with the internet.
Right. And with AI coming out the way that it is,
so many opportunities.
I write like a children's book once a week
Yeah.
on ChatGPT for my daughter to read it to her. Like, it's very, very, it's accelerating the pace. So I look at ChatGPT, just to go on a rant real quick, but I look at it like an acceleration of what we already have.
Yep.
No different than Henry Ford with a car, right? We're not taking horseback anymore. We're taking cars. We're not walking. We're taking cars. I can get from here to Chicago by walking, but I can also get there by driving or
plane.
Accelerate again, plane.
Yeah.
I can get there in 54 minutes exactly from Columbus to Chicago. I can spend 54 days walking. It's just accelerating the pace of what we do.
That's facts.
It's going to take jobs away, sure. Every evolution of technology, though, does that. There's jobs that are going to be replaced, and there's jobs that are going to be opened up, too. It's just part of life.
It's part of it,
right?
yeah, for sure.
That's all personal development. Someone came up with all this because of their development, because of education, whether formal or unformal, like what we do. What's funny is technically we are uneducated.
Oh, yeah, severely.
we are.
This shit makes me laugh, too.
I know. It's funny because if you look at our resume from education standpoint, I'm a C student with a high school diploma.
Yeah,
That's it.
2.1 or 2.3, 13 on the ACT. And, yeah, I mean, I barely survived community college.
You got a better memory than I do because I don't remember taking any of that nonsense.
Yeah.
But I know I did.
I was bad. I just remember it like everyone I knew, it was real doom and gloom whenever they knew. I was like, I just knew it wasn't my path.
Right. Yeah. Same here. So let's take a quick commercial break, and I will come back to the pipeline of prosperity.
Let's do it.
This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com. So what are you putting in your pipeline to achieve success? It is something that is internal for me. I'm so passionate about creating awareness for people to understand every pain point in their life can be resolved.
Yep.
Every problem has a solution and an opportunity on the other side of acknowledgement and overcoming that, right? So you kind of mentioned it earlier about writing down, logging, journaling. Whenever someone thinks they have life figured out, but they're struggling financially, in relationships, whatever it may be, they lack self-awareness, first of all. Even the most successful people don't really have life figured out. They're always continue to evolve.
It's always changing, bro.
We are more obsessed now with what we learn than we ever have been, and we're more successful now than we ever have been.
For sure.
Right? So what is the base level? What is success? Success cannot be identified individually until you know what your pain points are.
Yeah.
So identify your pain points, your setbacks, and then understand, okay, if I could take all that away, if I could achieve or have anything I wanted in the world and I couldn't fail, what would it be?
Yep.
That's how I present it. I'm guaranteed not to fail. What would I want? That's what your success looks like.
Yeah.
The only guarantee of failure is quitting to me.
That's facts. Well, I think the other thing is too, Jake, back to the original point, is that you could literally draw a bubble and go, shit I hate. I mean, I'm going to make this real simple.
It's very basic.
It's very basic.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think that is good about me and you going back and forth on this stuff, because a lot of times people think that there's some grandioso thing that I figured out, and I just really did figured out what I disliked about my life.
Pros and cons.
So I literally could make a bubble and say, should I hate? Duh, duh, duh. And then it's like, things, how do I attack these things with a solution? And then what's the equivalent benefit, which is how Napoleon Hill talks about on the other side of it, right? As I get through this adversity, what's the possibility on the other side? And, they always say, whoever that is, but I would agree with this, the shitty stuff only lasts for so long and the good stuff only lasts for so long. They both have run times to some degree, but we're always trying to get to that baseline of good, just like we talked about with how we feel. And so when I'm looking at something that's difficult, I'm trying to find a solution. I'm trying to find action on how to fix it, or more education around it is usually a lot of it too. And at the end of the day, I remember thinking, what do I really want to do, and how do I want to operate? So that's like a big thing for me, and you've heard me talk a lot about this, and this is even actually another concept book I'm working on, is like I often mostly daydream about how I operate. Not even necessarily about, never really has like a dollar figure, and never necessarily, but it's how am I operating? Literally from where I live to where I drive to even the room that we're sitting in right now, like just the meetings we had yesterday. We played pool while we went through our fucking daily meetings yesterday. Like how, so, and then sometimes I reverse it back from there and go, well then how do I actually try to make this happen? And it doesn't happen quick, but look, this room process was like a 6-month, maybe longer. We talked about it.
We kind of had an island thing going on.
Yeah. That's a whole nother talk, right? But it's like one of those things where I've daydreamed about that even since I was a kid. I don't really want to be in this trailer no more. What happens if I liked my job? What happens if my mom wasn't crying because she didn't have enough money for this bill? What happens if like we ain't got to wait for the paycheck in 2 weeks to get a new water heater? Like what happens? Like, and I would just think like, what if I don't operate like this? I can just go to the dealership and say, yeah, I want that car. Or like, and these are all like things that I would just think about, but I never really had a path of how they would happen. But I kept going towards things I really liked, leaned into things I love, immersed myself in learning of things that I wanted to get better at. And, I blink 25 years later, a lot of ups and downs, but it's like I'm still really doing the same process, bro. I literally just wrote on my whiteboard in my basement all the things I just like. Like to make sure I'm leaning into them. And it's
Dream
like
board, basically.
It's literally like it's like 1970s bodybuilding. Fucking basketball jerseys, stretch out a treadway, like fucking, personal development. And it was like all of the things that I just like, and they're all over the place. And I'm like, are these being represented in how I operate? And am I leaning into more or less of these? And I think that sometimes it helps just to write you down on a fucking napkin if you got to. Once again, I think there's no grandioso deal. It's like more of an awareness. But if you just don't feel good, not just bodily, but mentally, basically, you just don't like either the people you're around, the way that you feel on a regular basis. That doesn't mean we feel amazing every day, because we don't.
No.
But there is a baseline that we stay around. So it's like kind of what Urban Meyer talked about, above and below the line. You're trying to stay close to that as you can. But if you notice you're always below the line between the way people make you feel that you're around all the time, or maybe the things you're consuming, whether it's the news, like you have to really just kind of take like
what you consume is everything, man.
It's a lot, man. So I think that just really take ownership around like what's kind of going in. Which is kind of what we're talking about. And so I think that has a lot to do with it.
Positivity is a massive, massive mindset shift if you don't have it. So what you consume and the way you look at life really manifests where you go. So for me, I've been a fairly optimistic, positive person majority of my life.
Same.
Even through adversity, I use it as opportunity for enhancement of my life of some sort. Enhancement, a way to learn something that I didn't know before this happened, right? So acknowledgement of adversity, vulnerability in that moment, and then understanding your head and your heart are going to take you to a certain area from your environment.
Yes.
Regardless of what you think, we are predetermined emotionally to feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this happen this year where we had a business setback. We had a thing that we had to overcome, right? I look at every problem as a sign of progress. It is a sign of growth to me. We are outgrowing our current state with a problem. So in business, okay, we have a problem arise. This is an opportunity to learn. That's how I look at all of it now.
Yep.
But I am not good at recognizing that and then not creating chaos, as you can probably relate to.
Yeah.
So I create chaos in a sense of urgency that's not necessary at that time. And it's necessary, but not the way that I approach it.
Got it.
So I was thinking about this, and I'm like, I could have really made this much simpler
Mm-hmm.
than what I did. I led with positivity. I was positive about it. I was optimistic about it. But what I didn't do is have the facts in front of me. So I actually developed it's a personal thing for me, but a 5-step problem-solving guide. So the 5P process for problem solving. The first one's presentation. So the first P is presentation. Whenever you come into a issue, whether it's you don't like a thing in your life, whatever it may be, you have to step away from the emotional side of it.
Yep.
So I'm sitting in this chair. I need to sit over there from a third-party lens. What is factual? What are the facts? What is the reality of the situation? Being able to do that in itself without
It's tough.
creating a dumpster fire around you is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it a few times since, and it works very well. If you don't react, don't press send, don't open your mouth, right? Don't say something right away. Don't react to exactly what was said to you. Take time to step away and process. And for me and you, being very quick to everything we do, we take action immediately. And if we don't like something, if we see bullshit, we're going to call bullshit, right? And don't care. But for me, seeing the reality of the situation has helped look at things from a different viewpoint. And I think there's some power in this. So presentation, you have to understand that the facts and what you think are different.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, because our environment was created for us. We have a reaction or a trigger to certain things that happen. Present all the facts to yourself, and then remember, from the positivity side, the solution has to be the focus. So 10% of the problem can be thought about. Think about the problem by yourself, and then that's it. 90% of the time is solution or opportunity focused, because what you put your time into attracts, it accelerates, right?
Facts.
It gets momentum. So if you're focused solely on the problem becomes bigger.
Oh, I would agree with that 100%.
So focus on the solution, and as solution-based, opportunity to grow, right?
I would say I know the problem, but focus on the solution. I never focus on the solution and try to know the problem. Like it's not the opposite.
Right. So present all the facts to yourself before you go anywhere else with it. And then what is the number one thing that I think is really the game changer? You have to have a plan for yourself, but you have to commit 100%. There cannot be no 99.9% commitment, 100% commitment. Presentation is the first step. Present all that to yourself and understand the commitment is the most important thing.
100%.
Okay? Then go to the partnerships. Second piece, partnership. Collaborate, get your team around you. In a business problem, get a team. Whether it's someone in your network, someone internally, whatever. Build your team. They have to be 100% committed. They have to believe in the opportunity. There can be no wavering on commitment, because commitment is the only way this thing goes through to the end, in my opinion. So you have your team, then you go to the planning stage. So the planning stage, you have the team, you build the plan, get it all laid out. Don't spend too much time planning. There isn't a perfect plan. Progress over perfection,
that's
right?
true.
We've all had plans in place. Rarely do they go the way that according to plan, right?
Almost
you buy
never.
an island and this thing just completely becomes like, completely different than what it could have ever imagined.
For sure.
Have a baseline plan, an end result in the beginning, but the middle, it's going to work itself out, dude. It always does. So have a plan, little time before you take action. Just get the baseline.
Just got to get moving.
Got to get moving. And then the fourth P is performance. So take massive action, execute, get the opportunity, the solution in place, overcome whatever it was, right?
And the consistency within that.
Yeah, 100%. So you got to take action fast, with that plan, progress over perfection
Yep.
once again, and just keep working, keep chipping away at it. The compound effect, right? Keep
Yep.
chipping away at it. And I think this is the most powerful one. So the fifth P, I'm going to call prosperity. Successful or thriving. So if you're successful or you're thriving in life, normally you learn from your mistakes in the past.
Yeah.
Try not to make them again. So as soon as you overcome the problem, you have a solution in place. Sit down and look at what happened, what transpired to get to that point of it being recognized as a problem. So what are some events that led to, a financial hardship?
Mm-hmm.
What choices did I make that led to this? What did a team do that led to this? Learn from it. So you had a problem.
Repeating it is the worst thing of all time.
100%. And
that's
not
where
understanding why it happened.
That's where I go crazy.
Yeah. So oftentimes things are repeated because you didn't recognize
Yes.
the things that were in place that caused it. Right?
Mm.
So what habits were instilled that need to be changed or evaluated? What processes, whatever it may be, what led to this happening? So prosperity is figure out the solution, reflect on it, and then put things in place that never have that happen again.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, something similar may happen, whatever, and then it's the mindset after. Win or learn, never lose. Losing or failure is quitting to me.
Yeah.
So if I lose something, that's just an opportunity for me to get better. That's it.
Hey, I lost a gang of money in crypto, so I just know it's probably not my jam.
Yeah,
so
don't
I'm
do that
not,
shit
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, I think that it's kind of like when you're a little kid and you touch the stove because it looks hot and you just want to see, like, is it
Dude,
really hot?
The basics.
And it fucking burns. You're like, not going to do that again. It's literally the same shit.
It really goes back to the basics sometimes, though. Like, we learn all this in our environment. We learn about habits, trends, whatever, good or bad. When we get older, it just becomes a evolved thing from
Yeah.
the baseline that we had as kids. It just evolves. The
It just
problem just
evolves.
is bigger.
That's fact. And like I even have the I just had this problem the other day. Like I value my time at like a high level rate. I have for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I get real bad when I'm just like waiting on my kids to like come outside. Like they're like taking too long, or someone else is putting my time at like a discount because they're like fucking super late.
Let me know if you figure this one out because that's
Well, yeah, so I get real testy, and I had to like apologize to my wife because I was like, in this area, I feel like I'm in business, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to understand that I can't apply the same intensity
right.
as I would, Now, in some cases, that is just not unacceptable, but I think that that was one of the ones like I've been struggling with lately because I think I've so dialed in all this stuff for so long.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm fucking off my own time, then whatever.
But you don't waste your own time because what you do is if you're doing something that is not so-called productive,
Yeah.
it really is productive.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it's
I'm
recovery.
choosing to do it. Yeah,
Well,
it could be recovery.
it's a mental like escape. It's smoking a cigar, watching football,
Yeah.
maybe. It's not that you're not applying yourself to business, but you're getting yourself better to reapply yourself to business when it comes time. I think recovery is a massive, massive underlooked thing.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
For your mental space.
Steve Harvey said that the cigar is like his yoga. I kind of fuck with that.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
like
yo,
that.
this is my yoga. I was like, yeah.
I like that a lot, actually.
That's good, right?
I'm processing that. That's pretty good.
That's really good.
He
said
good.
yoga takes about an hour.
Yeah.
So does a cigar, and that's how relaxed he feels when he smokes.
But honestly, though, he's right on with it.
he
really
knows
is.
that for him, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
And he feels like a boss.
Yeah. So
Can't argue.
I used to, I would go out to a buddy's house, maybe have a bourbon every once in a while, whatever. Meet, a friend in the afternoon at a restaurant, have a drink, just BS with the guys, right? And I quit doing that. Probably a few months ago. Probably when I started Busy Diet. It wasn't because of that, but I just quit doing it.
Sure.
So this has been kind of my platform for mental escape, where this is not work.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing this. My passion in life is to inspire and help other people, right? That's what I'm here for. I mean, that's similar to you.
That's what I've been doing
You wanted to
forever.
change generations of Gregory's to come, but you wanted to do that and change everyone that you could.
It just spilled into other people. I was reading something the other day from something, and it was like, when people are teaching or showing things, because like Pat McAfee talked about the lunges the other day, and when I did a video, there was people.
That's a small plug there, by the way.
Yeah,
Pat McAfee
yeah.
Show. Shout out.
Whenever I was like in the video, this guy, because I said, "Yo, I train from 4 to 5:30, and then I lunge." I've been doing this for so long. That to me is not even a flex. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
So there's people in my comments like, "Yo, these influencers are, always flexing what time they get up." And I was like, bro, this ain't a flex. I'm just literally telling you what I do. It might be a flex because you're insecure because you don't get up or whatever,
right.
but that's not what I'm doing it for. But it's like one of those things where I was all thrown off by that because I was like, all right, this dude's thinking I'm saying he has to do what I do. And when I was reading this thing, they were like, no. Don't take it that way. Because I'm not telling you. This is what is happening. And if you gain this much of like inspiration from it or grab this and you're like, you know what? I got to be at work at 9. I'm going to get up at 7.
You're doing this either way. If one person is inspired by it.
Yeah. So it's like I never wanted it to come off that way because my life is not anyone else's or for anybody else. But people that have grabbed pieces of what I got going on have got better. That's a fact.
Well,
and so it just spilled over because, Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill talk about nothing can really, happen without enthusiasm, which I have around everything that I do. And it's so consistent that and it continues to work. So people start to say like, well, shit, there's a process here that if I can grab pieces of and apply to my life, it might help enrich mine a little bit. And so try to come from the most humble approach, but I got a high expectation of myself. And that has grown over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I'm not expecting less. I'm expecting more.
100%. The evolution is what people see over time. You're in your 40s now. You've been doing it 20 plus years. You have never flatlined. You're always
Doesn't
pushing
seem
forward.
that way.
The compound effect is
I had some shit happen, but I don't flatline.
But what'd you do? Okay, now you're a specialist
Brush
in other
myself
areas.
off and keep going.
But you're a specialist in other
Yeah.
areas now. You're able to impact a different group of people that you never would have been able to have like impact on before because of injuries, because of financial hardship.
Yeah.
Adversity is the most powerful thing in the world.
Yeah, no one wants
really
to
is.
go through it, but the reality is if you have a different perspective on it once you get through it, like I have a new appreciation for lifting every day because it almost was taken away from me with my shoulder. And I have a different perspective on, I think family members around me because I lost my dad in a car wreck. I have different perspective on, business situations because I've had big and small and whatever. And so I think that all of this makes me me. You know what I mean? And so, it just is what it is.
So you're probably the same exact way that I am when I say this, but I don't work out for anybody else. I work out for me, right? Because I am the best. I am selfish with my working out because I am the best me to everybody else that I care about. But I don't work out because I hate who I am. I work out because I love who I am. When people think of a workout or think of, okay, I got to go on this hardcore diet. I have to commit to CrossFit 5 days a week and then cardio every night. They're doing it out of hatred for themselves in their current position. If the mindset can just be one step toward liking yourself and then just simply changing. When I was 13 or 14, I started working out because I hated who I was, right? And it took years to figure out that if I love who I am, I love where I'm going, I love the direction in my life, my mindset went to that positive side. And then I thought, man, I'm going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's an honor and a privilege to go to old school gym at 4 a.m. and do it. A, but B, because I love myself enough, I can commit to doing that. And when you understand that I don't hate who I am, I love who I am. That's why I'm going to go do this.
Working out's not working out and eating good is not a punishment. And I think that what people got to realize, they're really like putting more love into themselves because discipline allows you to get what you want. Not today, not tomorrow, but maybe the next day. Yeah. Or maybe 10 days.
We're not doing what we do today for today.
No, it has nothing to do with it. I'm training. So I heard this when I was reading, or I'll say reading loosely. I was listening to Peter Attia's book, who's like a famous doctor. He said, this is real. So this is really good, I think, from the blue collar standpoint too. The job site that you're on and the labor work you're able to do at 40, is not like you have to like be handling yourself so you can do that at 50. Just don't think you can do it at 50 because you're going to incrementally lose muscle mass and lose ability and lose strength at a percentage every year. It's just the way it is. And what he was saying, he used skiing. I don't ski, but he used this as an example. You love to ski at 40 and you think you go skiing once a year and you're not going to train outside of that at all. You think you're going to be able to do that 50? You're fucking not going to be able to because you're going to lose 12% of muscle mass and this much of ability and this much of endurance. You're training right now at 45. I'm training for the 55 Cory, that I can canoe at the lake and I can still lift weights with my kids and I can still play basketball. Like, I'm training for that now. And I don't know that I all the way put that together when I was younger, but now at this age, I'm still able to get in there and mix it up with AG or Andon or whatever. Like, my life is different because I feel younger than I really am. I have some stuff that's creaking. Don't get me wrong, because I've been hard on myself with the red line and pushing myself. But the reality is, like, my experience as a parent is very different than a lot
100%.
Because of that.
So people do not conceptualize this. If you're not focused on wellness, and that can be your yoga, it can be literally anything that's going to create mental, physical clarity, feeling better. So if you don't focus on that, the compound effect is you essentially...
It's going one way or the other
you
anyway.
quit living. Wellness or illness, there is no other option. So we choose every day proactively to wake up and feel better about what we do. We do things to create our best clarity for the day. We are the best person that we can be. We are alive every day. A lot of people die at 25. They just don't get buried till 75.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
And I know a
fact.
lot of people that quit living a long time ago. They're still breathing and walking, but they're not alive.
Well, think about this. It's really, if you commit to a process, I really don't choose to come to the gym. It's so habitual that it just happens.
I've been waking up the last 2 weeks before my alarm goes off.
Yeah.
Right?
I like when I get in streaks like that.
Yeah, it's a little different reason.
Yeah.
A little bit crazy.
But the reality is, like, I think if you can get into a pattern, back to the one push-up, one squat, back to the 1 page a day.
5 minutes earlier on your alarm, wake up 5 minutes earlier for a week.
It becomes different because then it's like you're not choosing or not choosing. You just do it. And Nike made $1 bazillion on that tagline, just do it. And I think that I'm not reasoning with myself. I'm not negotiating with myself. Yeah. So when I give that very, I think, direct, kind of blunt answer back to people like, how do you do it?
So my alarm.
Yes, I just get up.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to show
reality.
them.
You just have to do the thing.
It's just, yeah. So I think that once again, probably when it's all said and done for me, there's really nothing that extra special, which I've used as a quote. I don't do anything extra special. I just don't fucking miss. I just really tried to focus on the not missing part, because eventually I'm going to fuck stuff up, and then I'll eventually not fuck it up, and I'll figure it out. But that comes with the not missing part.
Dude, that is 100% the compound effect.
Yeah, it
is. It's compound interest. Just
compound
interest. Little bit at a time.
Yeah.
A pinata effect, right? So you think of a pinata, you're at a kid's party, and you got 25 Barry Bonds Jr. going up and hitting this thing, right? And then this little girl, all 30 pounds over, goes up and accidentally hits it with a stick, and then it explodes.
Yep.
It wasn't that one hit. It was all the compound effect of before.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to understand that sometimes with things because people want immediate gratification. But if you can delay the gratification and just believe that,
it's having faith.
If
you have to believe in something you can't see.
You have to have faith that you will continue the process and eventually get there. And I think the other thing is just understand that you're not entitled to the time frame.
No, that's the other part.
It's hard. That's probably the hardest thing out of what we do,
yeah.
Whether it's in the gym, whether it's strength, whether it's look, whether it's business, that I want to know that it's going to be I'm going to bench 350 on this day, but that's not anything guaranteed to me.
That's not today.
It's not today.
So I call it persistent patience, and I'll go into this in another episode, but that's how I view my world. That's how my life is. I am persistent in my pursuit. I'm relentless, but I'm also patient with the timeline, because the timeline is one thing that is out of my control, and I know that.
Completely.
Now I've had adversity or situations that allowed me to understand that had the timeline went in place when I wanted it to, it would have been very, very bad.
Yeah.
So just like the island with
Yeah.
the last part of that, we were talking one day. You're like, yeah, I'm not going to force it. It'll happen next year, right? Because you understood that
I
if you force
disassociated
it,
with the timeline, and
if
then
you-
it worked.
right? It did. Well, if you would have tried to force it, something would not have went
Yeah.
according to plan. It would have ended up
I
being
knew
a
that.
lesser of a result, and it
Yeah.
was for what reason? There was no real benefit.
There was a
in it.
diminishing return to the force,
Absolutely.
and I felt that way. And I remember looking to Tyler that day saying, "I'm not answering any more questions on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just quit calling people. We just got to take a break because we have literally. There's something to be said when you feel like you tried your all, and it's hard to get there. But
Mhm.
everyone's perception of what that means is a lot
Right.
different. But I literally felt like I was at that point. I had 12 or 15 days to execute on what was necessary for all these other things to fall in the chess game. And I said, bro,
We got to get equipment off that.
if it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
it's not because we didn't try.
Right. And that's it.
Literally try our hardest.
So you touched on something that is
So then I gave up and it all worked.
well. So not only is the outcome not in our control, but the outcome is not where the joy should be at. The joy should be in the process.
Yeah, that one's a hard one for
It
people
is
to lock
very,
in on.
very hard, but just understanding that the outcome is the result of the process. Enjoy the process, and the outcome will be there. But I have never felt more empty than achieving my 12-year dream. All the chips in. We sign on our pipeline. Me and Cody go out on Saturday with our wives. We hang out. We have a blast. I wake up Sunday morning. I never felt so scared and alone at that moment
Yeah.
because I realized the reality of the situation, that not only did we just put everything in that we had, and now we have to produce,
You have
or
to produce.
our family loses everything. But we also have to produce, or 60 other people in their family
Yeah, it's
are impacted.
big stakes, bro.
It's completely different at that point.
So Rick Rubin said something about that these artists that create the success, like they have nothing, then they become super successful. And then they realize that it doesn't fill whatever the hole was that they were trying to fill, and they become hopeless.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting thing, because I think when you have any type of success, and that also could be a wide range of things, you start to realize this is the easiest way to explain it. Your crew or your sports team, whatever it is in high school, you win the championship. Maybe you remember that game, but you really remember all the time in the locker room, all the bad practices. That's the process.
Yeah.
And so what I think people is they don't realize how enjoyable the process really can be. They're only looking at the outcome. And as an older entrepreneur now, I realize that is the sauce. So the way to operate for me is I'm trying to create the process that I enjoy the most,
Yep.
so I can get the most out of myself and the people I work with.
And it's being present in the moments where you do the same thing on repeat.
Yeah.
So the
Because
last
people say it's so boring. That's
right,
why.
the last probably 2 months, I've been coming in at 3:30 ish in the morning, and I'll hop on the bike for 10 minutes, and I'm just checking out the scenery of the old school gym.
Yeah.
I am appreciating it because I know one day it won't be here.
Of course.
One day I won't.
Everything
be walking
has
in
a
that door.
runtime, bro.
Everything does, and it's inevitable. And I'm in the best shape of my life now. That will also go away, right? So I've had like a gratitude effect in the last couple months. Really, the busy diet really kind of propelled it to that. Coming in and just enjoying the little things,
Yeah.
right? But
Being
it's
present,
not a
bro.
little thing, and that
No.
it's little to us because it's what we do and what we expect. But it's not little
No.
on the grand scheme of things. To the outside world that understands what we're doing, it is such a great opportunity. Like, we are so fortunate to be where we're at. And I
100%.
feel that way.
Yeah,
and every
agreed.
day I have gratitude that I come in the gym because I know one day I won't be there.
Yeah. No, it's just
and
the
there's
truth.
power in that.
There's power in
Power.
that, because that's just being present and understanding what's
Yeah.
going on. In the
Which I'm
current
very,
time.
very bad at, but it is a conscious effort for me.
I would say most people are, but when you can get there, and I have times in my life where this is better or worse, and that's why I think gratitude, reflection, and those things as often as possible are important, because the problems you have now are problems you wish you had. If you've progressed, the problems I have today are things I would dream of, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago.
10 years ago, you couldn't even imagine probably the problem you have now.
Bro, no,
Same
not
with
even
me.
close. So I think that that's like good perspective. And if that's not how you feel, listening to us, then the self-education and these ideas, and maybe that the next time around you can be like, oh my gosh, this and this. It's because your side job is growing so much you ain't got enough time,
Right.
or it's this, that, or whatever. So I just think, like, sometimes people go, oh, that's easy for you guys to say. But, this is a concerted effort of a long time to get to that point.
100%. Problems are a sign of progress.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
problems that arise with us are because we're outgrowing our current state.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. It really is.
Facts.
That's what it is. There's still problems, though. And
Yeah, all the
they're
time.
still very challenging because even though we've evolved, with our education, with our business, the problem matches our education level most of the time.
Yeah, 100%.
We're outgrowing our current education state. So we have to double down and figure out a way around this, create opportunity, solution, enhancement, move forward. But
I think that if you're having these type of talks, though, that means you are progressing,
100%.
which is what was exactly what you
Right.
want.
So I'll wrap it up with this. So success is individual, not a one-size-fits-all. Understanding that in the very basics of writing down what shit you don't like, shit you do like, right?
Yeah,
Like
literally
you said.
that simple.
But also commitment. I'm so big on commitment. On the highway to success, the road to that success is not traveled very often. But failure is on the same highway as success.
It's part of it.
It's part of it.
It's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
Yeah.
So being fearful is okay. Having fear is fine. Being afraid is not, because you will fail. So you cannot be afraid to fail, right? Yeah. You have to understand that you are going to fail. It is inevitable in one phase or not of your life. Failure, though, is being on that highway and having this adversity and then taking the fear exit ramp.
I would just say things are scary, but don't be scared.
Don't be scared. What's the worst possible thing that could happen? I sacrificed everything. And when I say, what's the floor look like? I was damn near on it, and I was going to lose my house, so I didn't have a floor to lay on.
Yeah.
But I wasn't scared because I was confident enough I'd figure it out.
Well, yeah, at that point, you're burning the boats. You got no choice.
Failure is quitting to me.
Yeah,
because we're going to have setbacks. We're going to have failure in life. The power to persevere when adversity hits and not take the exit ramp of failure or fear and keep going, that's normally where success is, right on the other side of that problem.
It's usually right on the other side.
Right on the other side. So whenever you have, adversity or your biggest setback in life, just know, be present for a moment. The 5P problem solving process, like present the reality of it and understand this moment will never happen again. That it's going to be a staple in your life if you persevere in this moment.
Yep.
Because I know for me, I didn't do that until Jim Haven said, "Isn't this fun?" when we got dropped by the bank, and it was a rally of the troops for me.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of sat back, and for 30 seconds in my head, I thought, "Man, I'll never be here again. I am all in. The chips are in. I'm sitting at the poker table, and everything in my life is on this table.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never be here again." Because I will be a different person. If I go all in again, I'll be a different person, and it'll be a different poker table.
I knew that first. The second I got on the elevator to go up to Arnold's office, I knew it, and I was so present and so ready that I just knew I was going to be different from that day on.
100%.
That all of a sudden I could stand by my idol is a wrap.
Overcoming fear or meeting an idol, facing life's adversity head on, and acknowledgement of it, being vulnerable about it, and trying to inspire other people to expedite their journey because of what we went through. And there's some power in that.
Huge.
Don't quit. That is the biggest thing, though. Success is individual. Shit you don't like, shit you do like. Map it out. Don't quit and commit to one step. I'm telling you, you will have life-changing results if you continue to stay committed to it. So,
got it.
Cory, once again, I appreciate it.
It was awesome.
It was awesome to break in the executive suite.
That's pretty sick,
with
right?
a non-known location, and we'll call it executive suite for now. So this is the Iron Infrastructure Podcast. It's brought to you by the Pipeline of Prosperity. What are you putting in your pipeline to be successful? We're out.
Yeah, thanks.
This episode is brought to you by Cory G Fitness. Go to corygfitness.com for all your training, nutrition needs, personal development, enhanced lifestyle. corygfitness.com.